The coaching carousel is in full swing, not only in the NFL, but around college football. And there are a lot of vacancies, there are a lot of firings, and there is a lot of controversy about who is going to fill those spots. So we're going to get into all that today. First off, though, it is important to address Jim Harbaugh, the national champion, one of the greatest coaches in college football, maybe college football history. Hail to the victors. And a lot of rumors are circulating. Oh, he's going to go take the Vegas job. He's going to go take the Patriots job. He's going to go take the Seahawks job. All those have been spinning around. Here's what's going to happen. Championship parade is tomorrow on Saturday. He is going to announce at that parade he is coming back to Michigan. I think there's a real chance J.J. McCarthy announces he's staying at Michigan too. He is not going to the NFL. He has no need to go to the NFL. He doesn't like getting along with owners. He is somewhere he currently has full run of a program, and that program is the best in the country. So he is staying in college. He will make his money in college, and he will be perfectly happy about it. He's not going to the Raiders. He's not going to the Seahawks. He's not going to the NFL. Jim Harbaugh is a champion, a winner, and will continue to be a champion and a winner in Ann Arbor.
Well, it feels like the only ones really pushing the narrative of Jim Harbaugh heading to the NFL is the NFL media and the NFL in general, because it doesn't really make sense for him to head to the NFL. He is at the top of his sport right now. College football, he is the top dog. Nick Saban, the GOAT, just retired. Georgia football, they're not headed downhill. They're not going anywhere, but they're not nearly as good as they were the previous two seasons when they won back-to-back national championships. It is Michigan's time. It is their era. And when it comes to Jim Harbaugh moving to another team or coaches moving to another team in general, something that really bothers me with people when they discuss it online or even the media is they don't acknowledge the human aspect of moving to a different state, moving to a new job at all. When you get a new job, you have to think about where you're going to live. You have to think about the intricacies of moving your entire family. The team that's talked about the most is the Chargers, and he is currently in Michigan. Moving to LA would be a 2,200-mile move across the country. He has 7 kids, 4 kids with his second wife. The oldest, I believe, is around the age of 15. It is not fun telling your family of 4 you're moving 2,200 miles away from where you've been living for the last... How long has he been in Michigan?
Been there for a while. It's also not fun raising your kids in LA.
If you move to the Chargers, you'd be coaching for the 3rd most popular NFL team in the state of California. The Rams are more popular, and the 49ers are more popular.
Yeah, let's be blunt about this. You touched on it a little bit. Really, the only people pushing this narrative are those in the NFL who would benefit from Harbaugh coming to them, and ESPN, because ESPN is still bitter. They don't have access to Harbaugh on a regular basis because they don't have the rights to Big Ten games, or the same degree that Fox does. They want Harbaugh out of the Big Ten so they can promote him. We saw all year they talk down about Michigan, talk down about Harbaugh. Oh, they're a bunch of cheaters. Plugging their ears to the copious amounts of cheating which goes on in the SEC on a daily basis. No, Harbaugh's a bad guy. Harbaugh's in the Big Ten. He needs to be out there. He needs to be fired. He needs to go somewhere else. These people only care about eyes and money, and Harbaugh's not getting them enough eyes or money where he's currently at. Harbaugh's staying in Ann Arbor. Now, do we want to talk about Saban next?
Well, I have some other Harbaugh stuff to add on to that. When it comes to the only thing I could see that would make him want to go to the NFL is the fact that he doesn't have a Super Bowl and he wants to accomplish that in his career. But you take a look, the Chargers, you have Keenan Allen, he's probably not going to be on the team next year. Mike Williams is coming off of a serious injury. I believe his contract expires after next season.
Justin Herbert stinks.
Justin Herbert is really the only elite young talent they have on that team. Austin Eckler's pretty washed. And the other team I could see him going to the NFL, I don't see the Falcons happening. I don't see the Raiders happening. I don't see the Seahawks happening. The Panthers are definitely not happening. The only other team I could see him going to is the Commanders because they have the most cap space in the NFL next season. And I mentioned that family element earlier. It is very close to his brother. They'd be basically right down the road from one another. And he'd be able to have his pick of the litter when it comes to rookie quarterbacks that he's been recruiting during his time in college. So I think that if it does happen, it'd be the Chargers because he wants the opportunity to coach Justin Herbert, or the Commanders because he'd have a great jump start to build the Commanders team in his own image and how he wants to build the culture, build the roster.
Jim Harbaugh would rather have J.J. McCarthy as his quarterback than Justin Herbert. Let's be serious about that for a second. No one worth their salt is going out of their way to get that Herbert job. And as for he's close to his brother's not that far away. Baltimore is not that far from Ann Arbor. He can hop in a plane if he really wants to. Like, the proximity stuff's not going to happen. He's more likely to take the Alabama job than he is to take any of the NFL jobs. It's just not happening, and we're going to hear about that tomorrow. Anyway, keeping it in college briefly, Nick Saban, we already talked about him a little bit. The GOAT of college football has retired, And it was time. The NIL was not something he was functioning as well as compared to previous years. He was just getting out-recruited. Recruits were leaving in the transfer portal. So it was time for him to hang it up. Also 72, but enjoy your retirement, Nick. I'm glad the greatest college football coach ever could be retired by the next great college football head coach.
Yeah, well, Nick Saban cited the fact that he's getting older, he can't keep up with the long 14-hour days, and it's getting too much for him in his old age. He cited his health, he cited all these things affecting him as the reason. And I think the people that are going out there and attacking him and saying that that's a lie, or there's conspiracies out there that people are peddling.
That Jalen Milroe sent him into retirement.
I think that is a little bit delusional. I think it is the fact that he is getting older and he is aging. But then there was a massive cope on Nick Saban's part. He said that the NIL and the transfer portal and all that was not a primary reason or even really a driving reason to him retiring. That is definitely a factor as to why he retired, because the landscape of college football these days demands so much more. Now they have to recruit high-end high school recruits. They have to worry about how much the high school recruits may get from NIL money. They have to worry about other schools paying those recruits more NIL money. With the transfer portal, they have to worry about going out and recruiting people more heavily from other colleges that may transfer. They have to worry about offering them NIL money. They have to worry about other people competing with those same recruits with NIL money. They have to worry about their own players leaving for more NIL money elsewhere, or if they're younger players sitting behind guys that are now staying longer in college, they have to worry about them leaving and seeking opportunities elsewhere, when in the past, during the era that he dominated, he didn't have to worry about any of those things. He had to worry about recruiting, basically just recruiting high school guys. Transfers did not happen nearly as much, and when it came to competing with other schools couldn't really compete because they had established pedigree at Alabama. If you went to Alabama, you were basically guaranteed a national championship during your 4 years there, or 3 years, depending on the level of recruit that you are. And now, in his old age, with the demand, he's aging, it's affecting his health, he can't do the 14-hour days, the workload is getting more, he can't keep up with what he was already doing. So when you add more work, you're not going to be able to keep up with that as well. So I think denying that was a little silly on his part.
I think you're overstating how much extra work goes into it. They got people, they got accountants they hire to handle that side of things. Now, the real reason is, as part of the NIL stuff, a player has no incentive to stay at Alabama when A, they're not guaranteed a national championship, B, they can have no relationship with their coach, and C, there's money above the table elsewhere. Those are the three reasons. And as for the not having a conversation with a coach thing, since we didn't talk about that already, you cannot tell me you would not appreciate playing for Jim Harbaugh or Kirby Smart, or two charismatic guys, a lot more than you'd appreciate playing for Nick Saban. Being an old hard ass doesn't really work in modern football anymore, and it certainly doesn't work in college, as demonstrated by the retirement of a certain other famous coach. Look at that transition. Ooh. Bill Belichick's hanging him up, ladies and gentlemen, at least in New England. He may go take a job somewhere else. He may go do front office stuff somewhere else. Who knows? But his time as a Patriot has come to an end. And they've already replaced him. But the question is now, does he go executive? Does he go front office? Or does he go be a head coach somewhere? And I'm inclined to say he's either going to be front office or executive. I don't think he wants to go try and rebuild a team. If he does, it'll probably either be the Commanders due to the amount of cap space and full control he'll have over them, or it'll go be the Chargers because great quarterback, living in Los Angeles when you're a bazillionaire. Pretty nice. If it's a front office job, who knows where he goes. But I'm kind of glad to see him go. The Patriots dynasty officially dead and buried. We can stop hearing about Patriots fans say, oh, we still have a shot of winning a Super Bowl. Belichick's such a genius, such a great head coach. He's gone. Thank goodness.
There's no chance. I don't really see him going the executive route at all. I mean, given kind of how that has gone for him in his role as the Patriots general manager, with how their roster has kind of fallen apart. I do think at some point he is going to be a head coach again because he wants to pass Don Shula for the most wins all time. He is not quite there yet. I think it's either 26 or 28 games he still needs to win to be the all-time winningest head coach in NFL history.
That was, 12 seasons in New England on his current pace? 12 more?
There may be some truth to that. And it makes sense, him leaving, it kind of feels like the Brady situation where the time was finally up. Over 2 decades with the organization. And when it comes to where he'll coach next, I think, like you said, it's either the Commanders, much like with the Jim Harbaugh situation. You have a lot of flexibility there to build the team how you want it. or it's the Chargers. And I think for him, I think for the Chargers, that is the best possible situation. Because the Chargers' biggest problem over the last few seasons is the fact their defense has been bottom 5 basically every single year. The greatest defensive mind in NFL history is going to fix that. And then if you get assuming you don't give him complete roster control again like he had in New England, if you have another general manager in there kind of retool that offense and Bill Belichick hires a smart offensive mind, he's proven that he can win with an elite, very talented quarterback with the defense he puts on the field. So if he does not sign with the Chargers, I actually think he's probably going to take a year off and wait for the next hiring cycle with what we know now from the teams that are available.
Ultimately, I don't care all that much. I don't think he's going to be able to get back to the previous heights, certainly not the dynasty. I don't see him winning another Super Bowl in his career. Maybe he goes somewhere as 5, 6, 10 win seasons and sails off to the sunset as the winningest coach ever. Power to him if he does that, but that is inconsequential.
And on the Jerod Mayo side of things, because that's who's going to be Bill Belichick's successor. It feels like a move from Robert Kraft where he wanted to get younger at the head coach position. He's tied for he's a month younger than Sean McVay, becomes the youngest coach in the NFL. Feels like he maybe wants someone that can relate to the players a little bit more than Bill Belichick in his old age has been able to do. So I think that's kind of where that move comes from. He comes from within the building, so he's still with that established Patriot culture. I was a little surprised it wasn't Mike Vrabel, but I'd also have to imagine with how long Belichick was in the building and how long he has a relationship with Kraft, I'd imagine he also had some influence over who the Patriots' next head coach would be and who his successor would be.
Yeah, I don't think they want another hard ass coming in there and doing Belichick 2.0. The Belichick assistants very rarely work out elsewhere. Vrabel is one of the rare exceptions, and even still, he got fired in Tennessee. I think they want a different culture in New England, and I certainly think a younger coach who will be able to relate more to the players is a big part of that. What this means for the Patriots short term, who knows? Who knows how they retool their roster? Who knows what they do with their high draft capital? Who knows if they trade down, if they draft a quarterback? It's up in the air, but they're going in a different direction. Speaking of organizations going in a different direction, Pete Carroll is hanging it up. He will no longer be the coach of the Seattle Seahawks, and he has transitioned to a little bit more of an executive role. Talked about Belichick maybe doing that elsewhere. Carroll is now going to be working in the front office or in the building for Seattle, but he's done as head coach. He's an old man, can't really hang anymore. And maybe it was time for him to do that. He's one of the greatest coaches ever. Only guy in the last 20 years or so to win a national championship in college and a Super Bowl in the NFL. Phenomenal coach, but it was about time. It's also that the Seahawks had kind of stagnated. Their defense wasn't that good. Their offense wasn't any good. Their roster construction was solid, but it just wasn't going to take them over the top. And he probably didn't feel like hanging out there for another few years to try and push them to at best appear in the conference championship, only to get blasted by a better team. It was time. They weren't going anywhere. And now he has more control and has a much, much smaller workload.
Well, he wanted to coach next season. This was not a Pete Carroll decision. This was a front office decision.
If he wanted to coach and just had his heart set on it.
He had a press conference not too long ago.
If he had his heart set on it and said, no, I'm coaching somewhere, he would not be taking the job with Seattle. He would be somewhere else.
He didn't take a job with Seattle yet.
Yes, he's going to their front office.
No, that's what they want to do. They want to keep him within the organization. And from my point of view, that is a massive cope from management and from ownership. They want to get rid of him. They want to build a different culture. They want someone younger in there because they're keeping him within the... Really, they don't want him there anymore, but they don't want to make their fan base that angry. They still want him to, for some reason, be a part of it.
You realize every single fan base in the NFL hates their head coach, right? That's one of the great things of being an NFL fan. There are Chiefs fans who complain about Andy Reid. The fans will be fine with them letting go of Pete Carroll. They're not trying to appease them.
I think that's broken logic, but it feels like a cope from the management and general manager that they're keeping him with the team because I think there is truth. They don't want to anger the fan base. I feel like a lot of people love Pete Carroll, and they don't want to have to go against him because there's an opportunity that he may go and coach another team. And it has not been confirmed that he's going to be staying in their front office in some type of role because that role also has not even been defined yet. And when it comes to
if he doesn't stay, I will throw this out there before we get into the swing of things. If that is true, because I've heard different things from people who pay for the $8 blue check mark on Twitter, maybe I should not be as trusting as I am. If he goes somewhere else, I think we did have to talk about, well, maybe he goes back to college. Because I could see Pete Carroll trying his hand with the NIL stuff in a role where he's got more authority, more control over a program, when he already is one of the greatest college coaches of the past 20 years. I think that's also a
And
real
maybe he
option
makes Reggie Bush his director of player personnel.
And maybe he breaks into the Heisman house and takes Reggie's Heisman back. But
when it comes to the decision to move off of Pete Carroll, I heavily disagree with it because you look back at next season, I agree with Pete Carroll. He said this past year, he felt like they took another step towards making a Super Bowl push, making a deeper push in the playoffs. And while the result wasn't necessarily there, they went 9-8, missed the playoffs. I think that is largely due to the fact that JSN, their first-round receiver, was banged up early in the season. Their offensive line, which had very young rookies the season prior, was banged up during the year. Their offensive line changed around a lot. And then Geno Smith, maybe he regressed a little bit. Maybe he regressed a little bit to the mean from what we saw the year prior.
Or maybe he was just getting hit every play.
There's that, and he was banged up more during the season. So there was a bunch of injuries along that offensive line. Their receiver trio didn't get to play together that many games in a row completely healthy. And with Geno Smith not playing as well in the offensive line, being bad, it led to them only getting 9 wins, but they still got 9 wins. They're in the second most competitive division in the NFL. They have the Rams, who had 10. The 49ers, how many wins the 49ers have?
12 or 13.
The 49ers, who are the 1 seed in the NFC. They're playing in a competitive division, still got 9 wins.
Third most competitive, by the way.
Who's more competitive besides the NFC North?
East and AFC North.
NFC East is more competitive?
I'm still taking them. The Giants are
with the Giants with 6 wins and the Commanders with 5?
Yes. Mainly because they're so top-heavy. I mean, you can laugh at that. At the end of the day, I'm still taking the NFC East short-term over the NFC West. That may be a massive cope on my part because how much I hate the 49ers, but hey.
That's a hard disagree for me.
You can feel however you want. Anyway, who else is on
Mike Vrabel.
Mike Vrabel.
Who we touched on the Patriots, and when it comes to Titans fans, I've seen a lot of them. They're not happy that Mike Vrabel's moving out of the building, but when you read the Athletics article on the situation, it makes a lot of sense because you look at how the last few years have gone. The ownership apparently wants to get more modern in their roster building and also scouting process when it comes to the draft. When they hired their current general manager, Vrabel said that he didn't feel like he was ready to be a general manager. Ownership heavily disagreed with that. And then ownership was also reportedly very upset with Vrabel's trip to New England to be at the Patriots Hall of Fame induction ceremony because he said to the Patriots fans there that it's not like this everywhere else, the greatness that exists within the Patriots organization. That did not make the owner too happy. So when you have a coach, you have the owner, you have the general manager, the coach doesn't necessarily like the general manager, the coach and the owner don't get along, the owner's not going anywhere, the owner likes the general manager more than they like the coach, so the coach is the one that's going to get kicked out. You can't go through a rebuild when those three aren't getting along completely. So I get why it happened.
The issue is you could conceivably go through. It won't be as easy. It also comes down to the fact that Mike Vrabel is a floor-raising head coach. Say what you want about his ability to perform in the playoffs, but he had the Titans competing in games they should not have competed in. Lost a lot of those games, but still one-score affairs. You really do not want him rolling out the veterans like, hey, we got this 32-year-old wide receiver. We're going to play him over our rookie tackle. Not because, it's going to work better in the long run, but more so because it's going to win us games right now. There's
rookie tackle and 32-year-old receiver?
It was an example. Like they're playing... Vrabel is going to make roster moves and decisions on who he starts, saying, okay, we are going for win now, when really, players need to develop. The young guys need to have some go. They need to move off of guys like Derrick Henry, maybe move off of D-Hop, definitely move off of Tannehill, hopefully move off their entire offensive line. They need new blood in there, and that new blood is not going to be good and ready to go day one. They still need to play. You need to let them fry in the fire a little bit so they can be NFL caliber players.
Well, he started to do that with Will Levis this season.
He started to do that with Will Levis this season because Ryan Tannehill was terrible and got hurt. Let's not pretend he made the decision, I think I need to bench Ryan Tannehill. He was still rolling Ryan Tannehill out there until Ryan Tannehill got badly hurt. Then Will Levis came in and threw 4 touchdowns.
Well, the reason I think that Vrabel is now going to be very attractive to other teams looking for head coaches is because he was able to win with Ryan Tannehill. He won the division twice for the first time since 2008 for the Titans. He went to a conference championship. So if he goes to another team that gives him a chance, I think he's going to be able to win a lot of games with whoever that might be. Falcons could be an option. I thought it was going to Patriots. That's not going to happen, but I would be shocked if he's not a head coach somewhere next year.
The narrative that, he won with Ryan Tannehill is a bit disingenuous. He won with the best running back in football, and Ryan Tannehill was there, too. That he lost with Ryan Tannehill in the conference championship games because Tannehill stunk. But he will get hired by somebody. I could see him going and be a coordinator somewhere else, honestly. Maybe even up in New England. That would be an interesting coaching move, and he might just go do that to stick to the Titans owner. But who's to say? I think Atlanta is a good landing spot because he knows how to utilize his offensive weapons. Maybe not his receivers as much, but the only thing making me hesitant on that is I don't think he'd work great with a young quarterback.
There's also the fact that Arthur Smith was connected to Vrabel. He was the Titans OC, and I don't know if the Falcons want to go right to someone that's connected to their former head coach.
Arthur Smith was a nepo, baby. I don't think they're that concerned with the affairs of Brian Vrabel if he can...
Mike Vrabel.
Sorry, getting my coaching hires mixed up. I was going to throw out there, if we're really talking about someone who is going to go to possibly Atlanta, possibly go fill that LA job, I was going to bring up Brian Flores. One, the Falcons defense, if they suddenly took that next step, they already have a ton of pieces, would be amazing with Flores as their coordinator. Just get a few young pass rushers in there and they're set. And you say, oh, the Chargers don't have a defense. Brian Flores took one of the worst defenses in football last year, which admittedly made some roster improvements, had some great draft picks and free agency signings, and turned them into a top 10 defense.
Are you saying Flores to the Falcons or Flores to the Chargers?
Either or. I think there is a real chance he goes out there and becomes a head coach. My only conceivable issue with the Atlanta job is that he's already had some issue with young quarterbacks. So unless he gets the choice, he is probably going to go somewhere else or not get the job. I hope he doesn't get the job.
I was going to say with the Falcons, you have not been a fan of Flores and his attitude towards Tua, so I can only imagine his attitude towards Ritter.
Well, Desmond Ritter is not going to be part of the Falcons equation next year. I am fairly confident about that.
He gets the quarterback he'd want if he went to the Chargers.
I don't think many people actually want Herbert after they coached with him for a while.
You are on the Herbert hate train.
I mean, why must I sit here and fillet the hypothetical situations a non-top 5 quarterback gets himself into? Like, what are we doing here? Who are we talking about?
Justin Herbert.
Exactly. But I can probably do 8 off the top of my head who I'd rather have than Herbert. Might even be able to do more if I'm really in the mood. I'll do them right now. Holmes, Allen, Jackson. I'll go Hurts even though he's had a down year. I'll go Jared Goff. I'm feeling a little bit spicy. After what he's shown as 1 year as a starter, I'm going Jordan Love. Who else do I want to put in there?
6.
Tua, obviously. Clearly. Tua Tagovailoa is going in there. Okay. I feel like I'm missing a few obvious ones here. Stroud, obviously. CJ Stroud, phenomenal rookie season. Much worse situation. Got to get CJ in there. I could go Brock Purdy, even though he's a little bit of a system merchant. I'm forgetting a few.
So Big Kirko in there?
I don't think I'm going to throw Big Kirko in there. He's a bit old coming off a bum Achilles. I'm going to slide a certain someone in there. You're not going to like this one. Maybe Zach Wilson, if you put him in that situation, would find a bit more success than Justin Herbert.
Anyway, that has been this week's this episode of our podcast, going around the coaching carousel. Where do you think everyone's going to wind up from college to the NFL? Subscribe to our channel. We're over 10,000 subscribers finally. Next step, 20,000. Like the video. Use code THICK on Underdog if you want to play in any of their playoff contests. And we will see you in the next one.
Trevor Lawrence also definitely in there, even though he had somewhat of a down year.